I'm sitting with the man in the mirror. Ooh, I'm asking him to change his way. And no message could have been any clearer. And if you want to make the world a better place, you take a look at yourself and cut. How's it going, everybody? David here. David Gilmore with an E. Stop saying it's without an E. I'm not the same guy. Do I look like him? Maybe, yeah. Do I play guitar and shit? No. Do I sing? On accident. I'm not the same guy. There's dang E on the end. I'm my own person. Got my own video series. Thank you for watching. Today, we have a nice fine episode of whatever I am calling my storytelling session. So, I got you guys a nice video coming out with reading out of The Blue Book. That's private. Now I have something, put that away. Now I have something coming out of the blue folder of PEP. It just says PEP. That'll, another day. But it has nothing to do with the contents. What contains in here is all my first writings from 10th grade. Not all of them, because unfortunately I was a little doofus, and I just wrote everything out. I never typed it. And I would give it to people to edit, and then they would lose it. And then I'm like, oh, okay. Lose track of who's got it. Very forgetful person. Very giving person. Very easy. What are you eating, Nagwash? That's my candy. He's eating my bed candy. Sit, yeah. Now he's spitting it. You do that? Y'all can go. Y'all can just go if you don't want to hear my stories. So I got one picked out here. Doesn't have a title. But I started on green paper because that's what my friend gave me. My friend Hallie gave me green paper. She used to edit all my stuff. So I'm going to do my best to read this because it's all choppy chop and the sides and whatnot. It's very old. Alright. So we're going to start this. I'm going to try to do voices. We'll see. We'll see what we can do. Darren always was a lonely kid. He was really quiet in middle school and didn't have many friends at the start of 9th grade. Under heavy pressure from his parents, he joined the soccer team. On the first day, he really proved his worth as the best lowerclassman. Still, though, no one talked to him for about a week, when the team captain Ryan Campbell came over to him with the goalie Brian Stone. Ryan said, "Hey, nice job out there this past week. Have you ever played before?" Great voice for a senior, real deep. Darren enthusiastically said, "Yeah, a little bit in 6th and 7th grade. Why, was I really that good?" Darren obviously knew that he was good. He just wanted to say that anyway, to get some attention. Brian cut in, "Totally. I wish I was as good as you as a freshman. If you don't know yet, I'm Brian, and this is Ryan. If you want to say hey to us in school, that would be cool." Darren was so happy he made friends. He thought to be cautious, though, in case the others in his grade got jealous. But the next day in school, he saw the prettiest girl he had ever seen. He wondered whether to go up to her or not, but he hardly ever talked to girls before and was nervous. He thought he would ask Brian for advice. He seemed pretty cool. Throughout the rest of the day, Darren waited to see Brian, but no dice, so he decided to wait for practice. By the time he knew it, it was 8th period. He had Global, his favorite class. But being shy, he didn't realize that the girl sat right in front of him. Oh God, he thought. He didn't want to seem like a nerd, so he just kept quiet the whole class. Ooh. But found out her name was Emily. After school, he got changed and went out to the soccer field and played hard all practice. Once again, Brian came up to congratulate him. "That one shot you put on me? Ha! I hardly blocked it. Nice job, man. I'll check you later." His voice changed at me. Darren quickly yelled back, "Wait, can I ask you something?" Without waiting for a reply, he continued, "There's this girl. I want to talk to her, but I'm really not good with girls. Can you give me some pointers?" Brian says, "Yeah, sure, no probs. What's her name?" Darren says, "Emily, I think." Annoyed, Brian asked, "Last name?" What Darren didn't know was Brian went out with a girl named Emily Moreland. who turned out to be his crush. From that moment on, Brian wouldn't look at Darren the same again. Losing his patience, Brian pushed Darren over and walked away. The poor kid didn't know what to say. He sat in the mud for a second until he made a plan to talk to her. He decided to trip on her bag when he had to go to the bathroom. This would surely work. The next day, Brian pushed him into a locker, but Darren thought nothing of it. I'm sorry, it's just funny. Darren thought nothing of it. He was so nervous and trembling, waiting for Global. During class, he got up to go to the bathroom and tripped on her bag. He got up and said he was sorry, as did she, and made his way out the door. On his way back, she said, "I'm sorry about that. I'm Emily. You're Daryl, right?" Darren quickly replied, "Haha, Darren, but don't worry, you're not the first person to call me that." Finally, pages that aren't all ripped up as much. She laughed and smiled, and he blushed, thinking to himself how cute she was. After class, she walked with him, and he told her how he played soccer and found out she did too. For once, he could talk to a pretty girl without breaking eye contact. Maybe it was because she was so down to earth. Maybe it was because they had things in common. For what he thought, life was going good, until practice later that day. The whole time a few guys were tripping him up and kicking balls at him. The next day, he stood up to Brian and said, "Dude, what's your problem?" Darren got a real deep voice at that point. Brian snapped back, "My problem is you messing with my girl, you fuck." "What else?" Brian pushed him away. On the ground, Darren said softly, "She didn't say that. She didn't say any of that when I was talking to her. And if you put your hands on me again, I'll take her and I'll take your head off." Brian yelled back, "Nice threat," and knocked him back on the ground laughing. I don't know, it's just so funny. During class, they had passed notes, and he whispered her a few jokes. His heart started pounding when he got the note that said, "You're cute." He didn't know what to say back. He pondered for a minute and said back, "You're beautiful," and was upset when she didn't write back after that. After class, she grabbed his hand and pulled him out of the room and said, "Do you really think what you said?" He quickly replied, "Yes, you're the coolest, prettiest girl I've ever seen." He examined her big brown eyes, her pink lips, small nose, and the freckles you could see if you looked close. In awe, he said, "You truly are the most beautiful girl." Guess what he says? "I've ever seen." While hugging him, she said, "That's the sweetest thing I've ever heard. Thank you." Though he thought he was doing this to piss off Brian, he really was starting to like Emily. At practice, it was still hell, but Darren started to make friends mostly because of her. He still hadn't mentioned he knew she was Brian's girlfriend. One day while they were walking with Sarah, a girl from the team, and Ed, another friend, Brian ran into them and was furious. He grabbed Darren by the back of the neck and threw him down to his knees. Now, it's not that Darren was weak, but this goalie was built like a house. He was 5'9" and 170. Big for a sophomore. By Darren By the time three guys pulled him off, you'd think Darren was an alien. He could barely move his mouth, it was so bloody, and he didn't open his right eye for an hour. When his parents found out it was a guy on the team that did it, they pulled Darren off. He was so upset that he was so upset. There's no punctuation in this. I was an awful writer back then. There's no details. Who is this guy? He was so upset. He really liked soccer and was getting really good at it. He argued with his dad. "I can handle it. Remember that other bully Tony from 7th grade? His father interrupted. "Tony was half your size and never hit you. What are you going to look like if this kid gets a hold of you again? The least exposure to him as possible is going to be best. Understand, son, you're done with soccer. I'm sorry, but, well, get you into a travel program or something. I promise." Darren softly agreed. "Yes, Father. Yes, Father." They took away one thing he loved. He couldn't let Emily fall back into Brian. He wouldn't lose her, too. He spent a couple days at home, then came back to school on Tuesday with another plan. He saw her during his lunch period and decided to skip to see her. He ran to her and called her name. She turned and saw his bad condition. "Whoa, Dare, I can't believe how badly he pounded you. I'm so sorry. I didn't want any of this to happen. I'm so sorry, but we can't see each other anymore." Darren couldn't believe what he heard. He was in practical shock. Why?" Attempting to reassure him, Emily says, "You're nice, but Brian's my boyfriend. I made a mistake, and he forgave me. I forgot what I had, and I can't let it slip." Almost crying, Darren replied, "So I was a mistake. All that time we spent, the secrets I shared with you, I opened up to you. You're the only girl I've talked to that deeply. You're breaking my heart." Indifferently, she replied, "I'm sorry, but you and me could only have ever been friends." And Darren ran away. He couldn't take it. He ran right out of school. He just kept saying to himself, "This sucks, this sucks, this sucks! What the heck, what the heck?" He started to bawl. He never was rejected before and really didn't know how to take it. He had nothing, no soccer, no friends, no Emily. He sulked into the woods and sat there for a while, just blank. He couldn't believe he left school during 5th period of all time. He knew he was in deep trouble if his parents found out, and he didn't want to deal with it. He was in no mood to take all their shit. After over an hour just sitting in the damp woods, he got up on impulse and ran home. He forgot his grandma was watching his baby sister. Darren creeped up to the squeaky door and slowly turned the knob. The door squeaked open and slid his head through the opening. He could hear the news on and no crying. He did burp. "They must be asleep," he whispered to him. "They must be asleep," he whispered to himself. He snuck in. That was easier than I thought. He snuck into the basement and grabbed his birthday money, a few video games, warm clothes, shampoo, and as many water bottles he could fit. He snuck into the kitchen and made himself a few sandwiches and microwaved himself a slice of pizza for the road. He tiptoed into the living room and towards the back door and almost reached it when he heard crying and an old, "Huh? Oh, damn, kid." He heard an old. Dogs are already asleep. Tracy's rolling on the ground. He dove behind the couch and hid for what felt like forever, but only about an hour later he heard his grandma creak up the stairs. He immediately ran out the door and ran into the yard, but couldn't for long. The backpack weighed him down more than he expected. When the adrenaline wore off, Darren began to think, "What have I gotten into? I'm lying in bed crying and in school. What am I doing?" He started walking back to his house, trying to think of how to explain this. As he got closer, he saw flashing lights and heard sirens. He inched closer until he saw they were at his house. He threw his phone on the ground and ran. He hid in the woods across from his house for a couple hours. When it got dark, he then moved to the creek a few blocks over and set up a makeshift lean-to on a small hill and dug a hole to put his bag in. He would sell the games tomorrow, so he went to bed. "Darren, Darren, Darren, wake up! Wake up, Darren!" He was shaken awake. Darren opened his eyes. "Emily, how did you find me?" Emily replied, "I missed you, so I ran after you. But enough of this now, let's just lay." She kissed his forehead. He woke up to a raindrop on his head. It started to pour. "Oh, I hate this," said Darren. He made sure his things were well covered in the hole and ran under some trees. He sat under those trees, watching it come down, and started to cry. How could he like someone that coldly tossed him away? He cried himself back to sleep and didn't dream the rest of the night. He woke up and realized he needed to fix his shelter. He spent hours building the base up with mud and putting branches on the roof and sides. It was close to 3 when he started up towards GameStop. On the way, he spotted a few things he could use to furnish his new home that he would grab on the way back. After selling 4 Xbox games for $80, he headed over to the dollar store to buy some food. He got chips, a 3-liter, a big water bottle, and a loaf of bread. Not much nutritional foods, but he got some vitamins to supplement. If there was one thing about the kid, he was smart. He could ration his money well, but he knew he would be taking huge trips to the store every day. He needed his bike. After lunch, he snuck over. He choked it? Hallie made all these edits on it. I don't know what the hell. Pretty sure it checked it out. It's supposed to be checked, but she put an oh, because there's not supposed to be. There's only supposed to be one. I couldn't spell. Yeah, he checked it out and saw his parents weren't home. Not even his grandmother. "Strange," he whispered. "Grandma usually watches Jasmine here. Well, they must be at her house." He shrugged his shoulders and got into his garage. Weirdly, it was a mess. Oddly, it was a mess. Dang, man. Glad that I learned how to spell and stuff. His dad usually kept it quite neat. It smelled like dust and oil. The stereo was gone, but he paid no mind. Tracy might knock over my shit. Tracy! Who's the fucker? Paid no mind because... Stop it! Because he spotted his bike, a shiny white Huffy, hardly ever ridden. He snuck out and lifted the big metal door. He attempted to shut it, but trying to juggle the door and bike, it fell with a bang! Startled, he jumped on his bike and rode as fast as he could back to his new home. He knew he needed a hammock, so he spent the next 3 hours scavenging. All he could find was a piece of canvas that somewhat folded comfortably after stuffing it with leaves. He checked his PSP and it said it looked like rain. It was 9 o'clock and he was exhausted and went to bed. During the whole night, he was kept up by a stretching sound and curled up thinking it was an animal. Snap! Emily? Darren shouted. He started falling and began to yell. The canvas tore and he fell to the side of the lean-to. Branch landed on his head and he blacked out for a minute, maybe two. Darren woke up and knew something was wrong. He grabbed his stuff and started back home. He had no idea what to tell his parents. He stepped into his house and was immediately embraced by his mom. Darren! She yelled, what happened? Where have you been? Mom, I'm sorry. He explained the story as best he could. After she sighed, we thought they kidnapped you. She explained that someone left the door unlocked and someone broke in and robbed the place. When Darren's grandmother walked in on them, she had a heart attack. It was a miracle that she was still alive, but not by much. What no one realized was that it was Darren who left the door open, and the robbers came in less than an hour after he left. Though it turns out I went to criminal justice class, that's inaccurate. They would be a burglar. There's a difference. Though he wasn't positive, he had his theories about leaving the door open. Upon hearing the commotion, Darren's father walked in. What's going on? Is what I heard true? Quietly, Darren said. Yes. His father said, you're grounded. Get out of my sight. Darren was so upset. His life was even worse. He thought of suicide but couldn't go through with it. He would have to go to school tomorrow. He shrugged his shoulders and sighed when his alarm clock went off. He gritted his teeth as he walked down the stairs. No one said a word to him all day until Global. He was dreading that class. He sat down and buried his head in his arms. He really didn't want to see her. He got poked in the head. Darren was provoked. Go away! He looked up. Oh, Miss Lorman, I'm sorry. I just didn't get a lot of sleep last night. Miss Lorman said, okay, Darren, just good to see you in school. Try to keep your head up. Emily walked in, said, hi, Darren. He looked away. He went back and forth all class until Emily finally pulled her ace card. She turned around and put something on his desk. A little piece of paper, he thought. He turned it over. You're beautiful. He sent it back onto her desk, and she started tearing up. But then she thought a second and turned it over with fingers crossed. It said, maybe we can make this work. Neither could tell, but both of them had the biggest smile on their faces that they'd ever had. So thank you for listening. I know there lacked a lot of details, but there's a pretty good plot and story to it. Kind of doesn't make a lot of sense in a lot of places, but I really like that story, even though it was the second one I wrote, and, you know, it lacks a lot of details. Like I said, I like it a lot. I really do. So, tune in. There's going to be more stories to come. I appreciate you all listening. Let's go over to, I'm going to start Asian countries. How about Azerbaijan? No, that's technically Europe. No, it's not. It's Asia. Azerbaijan. Check it. Check it. Check it.